Good afternoon to SW6 Blues, Pride of London. And today we have got a real Chelsea legend who I've seen play many times in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s. Mr. Johnny Boyle. Good afternoon, John.
Good afternoon, Martin. How are you?
Yeah, fine, thank you. You're looking well, mate. You're looking well. You look like you could still play today.
No, I'm just looking in the pink at the moment.
So, John, you were born on Christmas Day of all days. Is that true?
Yeah, they call me JB instead. They call me JB instead of JC.
Yeah, in 1946, and you played between 1964 and 1973 for Chelsea.
I actually came in '62 when I was 15.
Right?
Yeah, my parents.
You was on holiday. Was you on holiday in London or something? And you got a trial?
No, it was something like that. My step uncle lived in London, and my mum sent him a letter and said I was a good footballer. So
yeah,
he said when was trials on? They said in the summer. So we went down in the summer for a trial, and that was it. And I was 15. Right. About 2 weeks later, my mum and dad put me on the train when I was 15 to come to London. I played for the school team. I played for a school team and an amateur team. Under 16s, I was under 15 then, and we won both the Scottish trophies, which is quite an achievement in those days because the area I come from, Lanarkshire, was a great area for footballers. So,
when you came back down to London, who did you stay with? You was only 15, or?
Yeah, 15. When I arrived at Euston, Tommy Dockery was there with his Jaguar car and drove me to. I went to live in Diggs in Thornton Heath. Now I went to Motspur Park first, where Barry Bridges and Bobby Tamblyn and a guy called Barry Smart had been living a couple of years before.
Right. So that. And what was the doc like, Tommy Dockery, in them days? He was a right character, wasn't he?
Oh, Tom, yeah, he was like a second dad to me, Tom, when I was there. He looked after me so well, and he was fantastic for me. I mean, he played me when I was 18. He did. I mean, in fact, When I came to London, I only had a little suitcase with I think one vest and one pair of underpants and a couple of t-shirts and maybe one pair of shoes. And Tommy Duck came round one day with a big handful of Fred Perry shirts and said, "There you are, son. They'll help you out." And he looked after me. He used to send us home to our parents every few months. And then I got a cartilage injury, and I was in hospital. And he brought my mum and dad down to London and put them up in a hotel. Put them up in a hotel. My dad said it was free drinks, son, but I didn't take liberties.
John, sorry, Marty. So John, you said you was 15 years of old when you got on the train. Was you excited? Was you scared? Was this a big adventure? Was you happy for it? Because it's a young, you're a young lad.
Sorry, the wife's just passing by there.
That's no problem.
I'm sorry. No, it was a great adventure. This was just amazing for me. It was. I was a bit of a mummy's boy as well, to be honest.
Right.
And so they took me to the train station. And mother, we got a letter from Tommy Dock, but they still got the letter. Shame I haven't got it, but with me. So they put me on the train, and as I say, I was 15. I was just an ordinary little schoolboy, and they put me in the restaurant car. They sat down. There was 4 knives, 4 forks, like a serviette, and they came down with a menu. I mean, I'm looking, a menu? What's this?
Culture shock. Yeah,
I wasn't a very good eater, and they come up with some soup, and the guy said, I thought, I like my mum's soup, so I said, soup, that'll have soup. And they came down asparagus soup. And when I smell asparagus soup now, I'm sitting back on the train at 15 thinking, this is yuck. So I couldn't eat any dinner, but I looked at the bottom of the menu and it said apple pie, custard or ice cream. And I said to the guy, can I have the 3 of them? He said, okay, yeah. So I actually ended up having 3 apple pie, custard and ice creams. And then later on a cheese sandwich before I got to Euston. And signed the bill for a lunch.
Different days.
So you made 198 appearances for Chelsea, John, is that right?
No, it's actually 266.
Was it? All right,
Yeah.
got that wrong. And you scored
Might
10
have
goals?
That might have been league games. No, and 12 goals.
12 goals. Right.
Yeah.
And you was
I remember every one.
I should think you do.
No.
And you.
The one goal was the first one I scored, like when I made my debut.
You scored on your debut, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah. Scored the winning goal. Yeah.
Oh, magic. Yeah.
And I remember Terry. And I remember Terry Venables running up to me and saying, "Oh, I'm really pleased, John." You know.
Yeah, it was. What was Venables like in them days? Then could you see he was going to go on to be a great coach and manager or not?
Yeah, I mean the place was just full of characters. I mean, Terry and George took me over the West End for my first trip to Soho, you know, and they actually introduced me to a guy called. They introduced me. They were over at a place, Bill Martin's place in Tottenham Court Road, and they introduced me to a little guy called Reg Dwight.
Elton John,
yeah. When I was about 18 or 19, they took me over there. Yeah.
And you was a holding midfield player, what they call nowadays, wasn't you? You was a more sort of powerhouse in the midfield, wasn't you?
Yeah, but if you look at the numbers I played, I think I played in just nearly every position except goalkeeper. I think in centre forward. But I've got a list of all my numbers, and I played. Somebody asked me, and I said, "Well, I never cared about the number as long as I had a shirt." I was playing. The number didn't make any difference.
And you missed you played in the Spurs Cup final, didn't you? 67, but you missed the 70 line against Leeds for injury, didn't you?
Yeah, that's probably one of the big things when people talk about Chelsea and they say, "Who did you play with?" And I say that, and that's the game they always remember, which was a fantastic game. I got injured in the end of 69 and didn't really play in 70 at all. But it was a great achievement. I loved it. It was a great achievement.
One game, honestly, I saw you play because I'm 65, so I've been going to Chelsea since 61 with my dad. And I remember one game you played in, what really sticks in my memory, was a 5-5 game against West Ham. Do you remember that game?
I vaguely remember. I think I remember swinging a boot at one of the balls and missed it, and it was a goal for them. So that's the only bit I remember. It was one of them games where everything happened. There was too much happened in that game for me, you know.
It was mad game. It was potty, wasn't it? It was like
it was 5-5. 5-5.
Yeah.
How could it not be, you know?
Yeah. And you played in the Cup Winners' Cup final, both of them, against Real Madrid in Athens, didn't you, as well?
Yeah. The great thing about that was that back in 1961, when Real Madrid played Eintracht Frankfurt in the European Cup final at Hampden Park in Wembley, at Hampden Park, and their forward line that day was Canario del Sol, Di Stefano, Puskas and Gento. Yeah. And after the game, it was 7-3 to Real Madrid. And after the game, we were out on the field out where I live, and we were all the Real Madrid forward line.
Yeah.
And then you forward 10 years, and here I am standing, and there's Gento, the guy that we were talking about, you know, sort of 10 years
you were attempting to be.
I wanted to be. Well, I was actually Del Sol. My mate was Gento because he was good with his left foot. And so then that to happen to them was just amazing. Amazing.
What was your memories of that game out in Athens then, John? What was it like to win that? You know, as a Chelsea fan, I couldn't believe we won it. You know what I mean? In them days, winning the FA Cup and then the following year winning that. So.
Well, it was just an incredible time for Chelsea, the whole area, the whole time. I mean, I just feel so lucky that I played football in that time. The whole thing, music was great. Everything was sort of, you know, it was all going good. It was always fun, and and Chelsea, and to do that, I mean, I'd already been playing against some teams about 5 years before that because I played against Barcelona in '65 in the Fairs Cup. Which was even more exciting. I mean, that was more exciting. That was just great playing against Milan and those teams then. So I kind of come up with it. I'd played it for a few years, and it's one of the great things of playing football is you going abroad and playing and then to win and to come home. I mean, and the way it worked out, the usual Chelsea couldn't do it easily. I had to have a replay.
That's it, yeah. But look at the players you played with in the 70s, Aussie and Alan Hudson and Charlie Cook. And we underachieved really as a team, didn't we? Don't you think?
Yeah, you could go on and talk for hours about that, you know, about how we underachieved and what happened and all that. And you go through a hole and then everybody's got a different opinion. And I'm just one of them. You take what you've had and that's it, mate. You know, we didn't do this, we didn't do that. We did this and we did that. You know, it's no good, you know, we should have or could have. It's not important.
So John, who was your best teammates? Who was you obviously played with some really good players. Who were the best? Who stood out to you?
I could go through them all, saying they nearly all did. I mean, for different reasons. I mean, you know, you've got some people like Aussie and Huddy and Charlie, but then you also have people like Ronnie Harris, who's probably one of the best markers out. McCready, who was a great fullback. So Benetti, who was a great goalkeeper. So they were all sort of like, it was just. I always laugh about one of the stories I love telling about sort of being in a team like that. I don't know if you remember when the players used to come out of the tunnel and they'd like give us a wave. And the first one they used to do was always Aussie. You know, Aussie gave us a wave and Aussie gave us a wave and the shed would wave back. And then they go from Aussie to Peter Benetti and then from Peter Benetti to Charlie and all the way down the team. And the last two were always Peter Houseman and myself. We used to laugh about it because by the time it came to us, they were nearly out of a clapper. But one day I said to Pete, let's have a laugh, Pete. He said, what? He said, well, the referee's only got 10 minutes when he comes out. And he was just about to start the game before we even had a clap. So I said to Pete, let's ask the ref, they're going to hold the game up for a couple of minutes till we get a round of applause. So we knew they were all, you know where you play and what you do. And they were. So it was, so we kind of went under the radar.
We had a big Scottish connection. Yourself, Charlie Cook, Eddie McCready. You know, we had a tradition at Chelsea of signing good Scottish players as well, like yourself and Charlie and Eddie. And there's a lot of Scotsmen come through, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. Yeah, there was. The only problem I had with that was that when I came at 15 until I was 60, I think nobody in Scotland knew me, or 65 now, 70, maybe a couple of years ago. On Facebook, people started to know who I was. Yeah. I never got an under 20. I played 100 games for Chelsea. I never got an under 23 cap for Scotland. I got one youth cap in a friendly, and that was playing against Aussie. Yeah. I remember he kicked me and I kicked him, and we said we better stop now, hadn't we? You know, I played against Aussie in a friendly game.
And do people, when you go to Chelsea now, do people? I know a lot of like Chris Chudenham and a few of the other boys who live near you, big Chelsea fans. I know they've been to an evening with you and Addy and that. And are fans beginning to recognise what you've done for the club and who you are nowadays?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the way I just look at them is they're a true Chelsea fan. They know this story. I don't need to tell this story. They know this story. When you read this story, you know it and you know what happened. I've made some absolutely fantastic friends on there. It's just been great stuff. I just love it. And they're starting to do another one. They've got this Chelsea Grave Society. And they're looking after all the graveyards and the headstones and the resting places of people. No, well, I've always thought it anyway. The one thing about Chelsea supporters was that they never ever criticised me because I gave them what they had to have, and that was 100%.
That's what we want.
If you give 100% to a Chelsea fan, then that's they're it. They're happy. Yeah. Absolutely,
Yeah, and you always, to me, you always did give 100%. You look like you wanted to get stuck in and try it. Not like
that was the way I enjoyed it. I mean, I made my league debut at Leeds in '65, and one of my heroes was there, Bobby Collins, who was a Celtic player, and one of my heroes, but he was deadly. I mean, but we kicked 10 bells out of each other and got on with it.
I remember little Bobby. I remember it. So when you finished at Chelsea, then John, you went to Brighton, and then you went to Leyton Orient, didn't you?
I went to Brighton on loan, and then I went to Orient for about, I think, nearly a year. They missed going up, getting promoted by 1 point, I think, Orient.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. It was one of the wrong mistakes I made in my life, but no, it's all gone now, so it doesn't matter, you know. But then I went to America.
You went to Tampa, didn't you?
Yeah, we had a great year in Tampa. We won the North American Soccer League, and it was a great. They didn't know anything about soccer in Tampa, and I've still got great friends there as well.
So how was that different, John? Obviously, you went to America and played for Tampa. How was that different to playing for Chelsea and Leyton Orient? It must have been, again, another culture shock for you.
Well, it was there because they'd never seen soccer at all. These were just an expansion team, but they took to the whole thing great. We did a parade, and we went around all the schools, and we did lots of great things. And even today, they still talk about that team, you know, the 75 team, and its history in Tampa. They're all, and as I say, I still keep in touch with lots of people there. And
did many pros go out there, John, when you went out there? Was you sort of pioneer of it, or was there many out there?
No, there was a few before. Me. We'd quite a few we'd Clyde Best, Stuart Scullion, Mark Lindsay, Derek Smithers, Paul Hammond. So we had a great crowd of lads. I mean, we had just a brilliant crowd of lads there.
And look what come along after. Aussie went there, George Best, Rodney Marsh.
Well, Peter Benetti. They all went there now. And it's great. What I said to somebody last week, I was talking to somebody in America, and I said last week, it's great, isn't it? They said, what? I said, well, you've now sent us one back. You know, Pulisic.
Pulisic, yeah.
I said, you've now sent us one back. That's great. And that's what was actually about way back then. Yeah. And I knew it would take a long time. It would take the people that we were teaching, it would take them to be dads, and they'd be teaching their kids. And that's how, you know, and it's great. Yeah, it was well played from Pulisic.
And when you started out there, John, what was the standard of football actually like? Was you like a kid? Was you like teaching children as well, coaching them? And
we did. We went to all the schools to teach them the rules, and we actually sort of they made a song about the rowdies are kicking the grass. Yeah, and one of the lines in it is. They kick with their heads instead of their feet, because they'd never ever seen anybody heading the ball.
Really?
Yeah. So we were on this parade and we were heading the ball to each other, and they thought we were jugglers.
Right? Yeah, of course. Yeah, never seen it. Yeah.
What a great story. So, who's the best player you ever played and your best manager, John?
The best player ever what?
The best player you ever played with and the best player you ever played against in your career?
Well, I don't really like doing that, because when people talk about the greatest player, the second greatest player gets criticised, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Or the third best player gets criticised. So I don't really like to do it. I mean, what I said, the story I tell is that Chelsea once played Milan Select. For a business week between London and Milan. They swapped chefs and they asked Chelsea to go and play in Milan. So we went to Milan to play. And Milan, they had a combination of sort of 6 from Inter and 5 from AC Milan.
Yeah.
And the forward line that day was Jair from Brazil, Sandro Mazzola, who was captain of Italy, Angelo Sormani, who was the centre forward from Argentina, who was the most expensive player in Italy, Luis Suarez, who played for Inter and Barcelona in Spain, and Amarildo from Brazil. That was the forward line.
God, there's some players there, aren't there?
Frightening. Frightening.
It was the first time we ever see somebody bending the ball round a wall.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm talking back in 65. We lined the wall up, and Peter Benetti, we used to line the wall up as the last person would line up with the post. That was the way, because the ball never went round that way. So we lined up that way, and this Brazilian guy stepped up and bent the ball round that side of the wall. And we looked round to see where it had gone, and it was lying in the back of the net. What's happened there? You know?
Yeah.
So from then on, we all had dodgy knees from Dave Sexton later on telling us how to bend the ball, you know.
Yeah. And manager-wise, who would you say impressed you? I know you don't like to say he was the best, but who was a manager who really impressed you with the way he had man management?
Obviously, Tommy Dockery was my hero, kind of father-like figure. What I always feel about that is that I feel it's a shame that Tommy Dockery and Dave Sexton didn't stick together to see the whole thing through, maybe for another 5-6 years, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
to me that might have been a better solution.
Yeah. Well, when I done Osgood's book, I done Peter Osgood's book, and when I was talking to Ozzy, when I was writing the book with him, he told me what a hard man Dave Sexton was. Nobody messed with him. Is that true? His dad was a boxer, and he was a bit of a boxer. So you didn't fuck about with him. You didn't mess with him. Is that true?
Well, no, no, they didn't. I think Ozzy thought about it once. I had to pull him away.
What, from Sexton? Did you?
I said, Ozzy, don't even think about it. That was the infamous Barbarellas. You know Barbarellas?
Yeah. What they was having
the restaurant. The restaurant just round the Fulham Road, about 100 yards from the ground.
I remember that.
Well, what happened one day was that we were what they used to do, if you were injured, you used to go for treatment at 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock and 2 o'clock, which meant you stopped like pulling the leg, pretending you're injured. So you had to go back in the afternoon. Yeah. So, but Barbarella's was a nice place to go for lunch between the 12 o'clock treatment and 2 o'clock. So, but when you go with Charlie Cook, Tommy Boyle, and Peter Osgood and Johnny Boyle, and somebody said you fancy a bottle of wine for lunch.
Yeah, you know where that's going to go, don't you?
And absolutely. So I think about I know that when Charlie signed the cheque, the bank sent it back because it was illegible signature. I think about 13 bottles of wine later, Bert, who'd been at the ground, he came rushing back and saying to us, you better get back round the ground because they're all doing their pieces there. That was about 3:30, 4 o'clock. Yeah. So we went outside. So the four of us walked outside into the Fulham Road and we were having a laugh and that. And suddenly Charlie fell over the little wall. There was a little wall there. So Charlie was lying with his legs over the pavement side, the wall, his body in the garden. And three of us are standing there looking, laughing and thinking, what's going on? Yeah. Anyway, we've all gone back in, and Dave's met Aussie and I walking back in. And we've started to have a bit of a discussion. And as we go down, near the old back way down towards the treatment room, Aussie said something like, well, what do you want to do about it? Go down to Dave. What do you want to do about it? Go down behind the stands.
So what he said?
Dave said, yes, I will. I said, no, you come out of the way. I said, don't even think about it. Don't even think about it. And Aussie thought better of it and came away.
I remember Aussie was telling me that it was a tough man, Dave Sexton. Not many people mess with it.
Another time, Aussie and I got caught was on the aeroplane. We were stopped drinking alcohol on the aeroplane, and this day we were coming back from a trip or something, and we had we said to the steward, we got friendly with the stewardesses. There's a shock, and we said to get a bottle of champagne, pour it, and then fill it up with orange juice and bring it back to us. So she did. So we drank that, and I don't know, 15 minutes later, 20 minutes later, we said, can we have another bottle, please? She said, yeah. So the lovely lady went down and came walking down the aisle with the bottle of champagne. And Dave said, who's that for? She said, well, these two back here.
Busted.
So that was another registered letter and a 2-week wages fine. So we had a couple of them. With Aussie. So.
And you was good pals with Aussie, weren't you?
We were like, from when we were like 17, we met then, and I went to his house. I met his parents, all his family. One of the things about Aussie, the first time I went there, and his old dad, Les, when I went into their house and we were talking, and he said, "You all think that he's the best footballer in Windsor." And I said, "Well, isn't he?" They went, "He's not even the best footballer in the house." And I said, "Why is that?" He said, "Mandy's sister was a better player than him."
Oh, brilliant. He spoke really highly of you, John, and I was. He mentioned you quite a bit.
Just loved him. We shared the room all over the world. We just
he told me that.
Yeah, we just everything. It was just superb. I miss him so much. I can imagine now if he was here, like how we would be. It'd just be great. It'd be wonderful to be able to talk to him about all the stories.
And what would he be worth in the transfer market?
I remember.
Nowadays?
You want another one about Aussie? Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
We Aussie, one of his heroes was Scoby Breesley, and one day we were watching television in Scoby. They were on television at Epsom, and we knew this guy at Epsom, a guy called Joe Stevens. So Aussie said, I want to meet Scoby Breesley. So I said, well, we'll go to Epsom, shall we? And he said, okay. So the next day, and there was also another guy, Ron Smythe, whose two daughters were on there. And I said, I'll meet them. And so we got to Epsom, we seen Joe Stevens, and suddenly we in the barn there was Scoby. So we said, let's get up there. And Aussie's all excited. And before he shook hands with me, Aussie did a Bobby Moore. He rubbed his hand on his trousers like that, and said, I'm cleaning my hand before I shake your hand, Mr. Breesley.
Yeah.
And so we met him. And we ended up back in Lambourne village. We got back in the horse box. We ended up back in Lambourne village. And one of the strangest sights in Lambourne village is to be in a pub with all these 5'8" women and 5'2" men.
Yeah.
But great times. Loved it.
No, he sadly missed Aussie. Yeah, he was a character. He didn't care who he upset, did he? He didn't give a shit for anybody, did he? He was funny, wasn't he? But no, I had some good times with him when I was doing his book. He was a funny man.
Another good one about Aussie, when we played the semi-final in 67, he didn't play. And he broke his leg. And Gary Sprague kicked me in the face. He came out, he caught the ball, got some group picture of Gary Sprague kicked me in the face. And I went down. And so about 2 years later, we were up in Leeds, played a game. And after the game, we were in a bar and we're talking. Gary Sprague was there. And Aussie and I was standing having a drink with him. And Aussie went, listen, Gary, you took the right effing liberty, my little mate. 2 years ago. So when you get a clump, he said, you'll know what it's about. He said, you'll get one when you're playing one day. And Gary looked at me and he said, John, he said, honestly, I'm really sorry. He said, I meant to kick you in the chest, not in the face. Because I said, that's okay, Gary. You went back to Leeds and I went to Wembley.
Yeah. Because we lost to a couple of times to Liverpool and Leeds and Sheffield Wednesday in semi-finals at Villa Park, didn't we? We had a spate of not being very... Yeah.
We lost them.
3 of them, was it? Was it 3 we lost?
No, we lost 2 and won the third one. We lost to Liverpool, which were a bit unlucky because I think we scored a goal that day. I was watching. I played in the quarterfinals that year. Yeah. And then John Mortimer scored, I thought, a perfectly good-headed goal, but got disallowed. And then they got a penalty as well. So that year, then the next year, it was Sheffield Wednesday. And we could blame the pitch, but the results the same.
Yeah. And what was it game where we wore the striped sort of Inter Milan or AC Milan striped shirt?
That was Sheffield Wednesday.
What made us wear them shirts then, John? Why did we pick that kit? Do you know?
The story I told you about the exhibition in Milan. I think that was before that. And they played in Inter strips, I think. And Tommy Dockery thought that was a good idea.
It weren't, I was. So did we bring that kit back from Italy, do you think?
Sorry?
Do you think we brought that striped kit back when we played in Italy? Or
maybe he did. I don't remember. That was the thought in his head, I think. If we could get that, we could play like Inter Milan.
Maybe. Well, we never did. It backfired, didn't it? So what do you do now then, John? What do you get up to now? Do you do after dinner speaking? And
tried to get on to Chelsea's hospitality, but I've not got on there.
Yeah, we've spoken about that before. It's a bit of a closed shop, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't know where this was going. I didn't realise I'd mentioned it before. Yeah, I spoke to somebody again a couple of weeks ago. They said they'd get back to me, but they haven't. So
yeah, it's a bit of a closed shop. You know what I mean? I've been up there, and it's the same sort of. I think you should be there. You know what I mean? Because you're of that generation where there's a generational thing missing that people be. I know Ron at Chopper's up there, but like you should be in there with him as well, because there's so many sort of 80s players and more modern players where you've got the history.
I was thinking about doing my own hospitality, just meeting somebody in a pub every week, different people.
That'd be a good idea, yeah.
Okay, the final whistle is upon us, Martin and John, I'm afraid. So, any last questions, Martin, for John?
It's been a pleasure speaking to you, John, and I hope you do get in the hospitality at Chelsea because you deserve to.
Thank you very much, Martin.
I think so as well. Yeah, you've got some great stories, John, and yes. I think you deserve it as well.
Lovely. Yeah. I'll just show you quickly. This is one of my 5 scrapbooks. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Jesus. Lovely.
I've got about five of those all take that and show it to you.
Packed with memories, John. Lovely.
Oh, yeah, that's a good view. Yeah, we can see them.
Got some memories there, John.
Yes, it's great. My parents saved them all.